It's tough to find affordable treatment, and most of our folks are uninsured. I think a lot of people kind of picture that fancy treatment center, and they don't think about, well, what about the people that don't have the resources? Where do they go?
Have you heard the saying, the opposite of addiction is connection? We at the Addiction Prevention Coalition know that there's truth in that adage. And so we are fighting addiction face to face, conversation by conversation, creating connection. Here at The Shield, our new podcast, no topic is off limits because there are no limits when it comes to substance use disorder. Welcome to The Shield. With me today is my friend, Elizabeth Norman, Executive Director of Fellowship House. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. This feels so formal.
Thank you so much for being here and saying yes.
Of course. It was about time.
Oh,
I was waiting for the invite.
You obviously. Well, when I asked you, I was like, "You've been on it before, right?" And you're like, "No." So we had to change that.
Yeah.
So Fellowship House, we'll talk more about it later on. But like, what is Fellowship House for those people who don't know?
Substance use treatment. We are primarily serving those that are uninsured, underinsured, underrepresented, but we of course don't discriminate. We see people of all walks of life. And so our services range from outpatient to residential to transitional living, even just interim services for those that maybe don't necessarily know what is going to be the best fit for them. We have just open groups and meetings that they can come meet with our case managers and kind of figure out and navigate what treatment could look like for them. So
And men and women.
Men and women, yes.
Kids too, families?
No,
or not?
adult
Okay.
only.
Okay, adult only.
Adult only. And I don't know if I mentioned, but we do provide co-occurring services. So we work a lot with substance use and mental health.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's a big job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how many people normally do you have? And should I call them residents? Should I call them clients? What do you call them?
Residents is preferred.
Okay.
But we, at our residential site, which has been our longest standing program, we have 72 individuals there.
Whoa.
A lot of people, small space.
Yeah.
But we have 52 men, 20 women at our residential. And then our outpatient location in Bessemer, and we have one as well in Walker County. Those are around 150 each. And then our transitional apartments houses 42 as well. So
Whoa.
working with a lot of folks on any given day.
Wow. And like, how full are you?
Typically, we stay at capacity.
Really?
We try to. We usually always have a waiting list, which is that it's tough because it's like you want to be able to go ahead and provide services when people are reaching out and asking for help. But we do try and ensure that there's not a night that a bed goes unfilled because we know someone is in need. So
why do you think there's such a wait list? Like, do you think it's because there's not enough places? Do you think it's that there's more people need help that we have the people power to serve them? Do you think it's like funding? Is it that there's just not a lot of opportunities for people without insurance? Like what? Or is it all of the above?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of all of that. Definitely capacity is going to be the biggest issue when it comes to residential, and capacity for those that don't have resources.
Because it's not a shelter. Like, you are not providing a shelter.
No, we are providing treatment. They have a full, treatment team of case management, peer services. They have a therapist. We have placement services. We have family services. I mean, they're getting a full array of clinical treatment with us. So, no, we're not a shelter, which is a common misconception. Mm-hmm. But no, I think
capacity is an issue.
Capacity is a huge issue because, again, like I said, most of our folks are uninsured. And so, it's tough to find affordable treatment. Treatment can be so expensive.
Yeah.
Which, I think a lot of people kind of picture that fancy treatment center, and they don't think about, well, what about the people that don't have the resources? Where do they go?
Right.
They deserve to get help too. They deserve to have, affordable treatment.
Yeah, normally when you think of treatment, I think when most people think of treatment, they think of what they see on TV, right? Where you're going for 28 days or however many days, and you take off work, and you're maybe, if you're lucky, your family comes and visits you, and you're by this lake
or some body of water.
Right, exactly.
Around. Yeah.
Like, most people can't do that. Like, if I were experiencing a mental health crisis or a substance use disorder, like, I've got a dog. I have bills I need to pay.
Exactly.
I have a job that, I mean, I need to have to pay my bills.
Yes.
So how do, and there are some people, who don't have insurance, or even if they do have insurance, they're worried about going through their insurance company and then what that can look like because of the shame and stigma.
Right.
And then transportation. I couldn't just pack up and go to Arizona for 28
transportation
days.
is such a huge issue. But and that's sort of part of the reason why we have our pre-treatment, the interim services, is to help people kind of navigate those things, get people sort of ready for treatment before treatment. So, do you have a dog? Do you have a pet? Where can we find shelter or foster for them? Do you need to go ahead and get medications out? Do you need residential treatment? Do you just need additional accountability and support that can be provided through our outpatient services, where our outpatient is much more flexible. We work around employment. We have an evening, we have a Saturday morning group. So, that's a lot of what pre-treatment does, is help people sort of navigate all the barriers that come before treatment. We make sure on our end, financial barriers are not an issue, but there's just other familial, barriers that can come along with it. So not having medication coming into treatment, not having, support. Who's going to take care of my house? I still have to pay rent. So we do a lot of that work in pre-treatment, is just helping people get ready.
Right.
Because people think, I'm just going to go off to treatment, but that's a huge deal for people.
It's a huge deal.
People don't realize, it is uprooting your life. You are going to a facility where you don't know anyone. You're completely out of your comfort zone. You're worried
You've got
still
no
about
control. You don't get to pick your food. You don't get to watch your TV shows.
You don't get to pick your roommates.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So we try and make sure with that pre-treatment group that we do a lot of that, just the intro. And then they're able to come on Fellowship House property, see the day-to-day, get a better understanding and kind of get some comfortability before just uprooting their life and coming into the unknown of treatment.
It's that whole, not to go too nerdy here, but it's that whole stages of change model, right? There's the pre-contemplation stage and then contemplation, but then hopefully you want to move them into action. But if you don't go through the cycle,
exactly,
and you just put somebody in treatment who's not ready.
And that is what our pre-treatment is based off of, is the stages of change. So look at you. You put it all together.
Public health nerd coming out here. So, I work a lot, and I'm not 24 hours. So, but, you have people at your facilities, at your homes all the time.
All the time.
So how do you sleep? Because I would be a nervous wreck. I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's 3 a.m. What's going on? Is everybody sleeping? Is everything okay?
I have an amazing on-call group of staff.
Oh, okay.
I am 24/7 on call, but they are amazing. They kind of deal with any of the clinical issues that come up in the middle of the night, on the weekends. My residential coordinator, Tequila Hurd, and clinical director Katie Abbott are rock stars. They deal with all kinds of crisis just through the phone and are so effective.
Wow.
And
wow.
And that's why they're the clinicians.
Exactly.
I'm not clinical.
Well, I was just going to ask. That's a perfect segue. So what is your background? How did you get into this? Are you social work? Are you public health? Or were you just I just love helping people?
Both. My background is social work. I got my bachelor's at Auburn in social work, and
Go Eagles or something.
War Eagles. The War Eagle. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Tigers.
But War Eagles.
I don't know the history or background there, so don't.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, anyway, sorry, diverting. All right.
But no, so that was my background. I actually, from that, I interned at Fellowship House. So I've been at Fellowship House my entire career.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
yes, if
This
you
is where
want
we
to
have a lot of like synergy. Yeah, I love this.
yes, the entire career spent at Fellowship House. So of course, biggest supporter.
Yeah.
My life is the mission. But I sort of fell into the internship there. You know, substance use has kind of always been in my life, not from my own personal experience, but family, friends.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
it's hard to not be impacted by it.
yes,
in
I don't
some
know
way.
anyone that hasn't. And so internship was a great opportunity for me to get exposure to what that looks like in a professional world.
Yeah.
And just exposure that I, you know, didn't have because growing up, it was still taboo. You know, there's still stigma. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about this. And so internship kind of allowed me to dive in and normalize the conversation and see, you know, outside of just my own personal experience, what people deal with. And so that was sort of my intro to this field. And then I worked in a few different capacities at Fellowship House, doing case management, direct client care.
Have you done the thing where you've like every 5 years you've like changed
change jobs?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So starting
then,
case management.
On one hand, it's like, oh, I've been at the same company for 15 years. But on the other hand, I haven't had the same job for longer than 5 years within that company.
That is exactly what happened. So case management to intake case manager to then, what was the role? Community coordinator, which kind of was my transition to the administrative side of Fellowship House and nonprofit world and fundraising. And so I moved from that. And then that position really kind of sold me on, I know what I want to do next. You know, I know I want to make a bigger impact on the administrative side of things. So from there, I got my master's in nonprofit management from LSU Shreveport.
Go Tigers. I know that. That's my team. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So, and, you know, took the associate director position and
how long has Fellowship House been around?
1965.
Whoa.
So this is actually our 60th anniversary.
Congrats.
Since you mentioned it, yes, we hope to kind of launch a 60th anniversary campaign this year and really celebrate on that and kind of look back at how much we've grown and, you know, what the past 60 years have looked like. And I mean, just the incredible expansion that's happened in that period of time and then see, you know, where we're going in the next 60. So that's
because you went from having one location, right? And I'm assuming a small number of beds and that's that yellow house that's in 5 Points, right? Yeah. Right by Ramsey High School.
Yeah, right by Ramsey.
And now you're in 3 locations and then you have apartments.
Yeah. So Fellowship House initially just started off as like a 16-bed male facility for those with alcoholism. And then expanded to be males with any substance use disorder, then expanded to be men and women, then expanded to be substance use and co-occurring disorders. And, you know, so we've continuously evolved with just community need. And that's sort of how we've continued to expand these past few years. You know, when the opioid epidemic hit, we were already doing medication-assisted treatment. You know, we always try and stay ahead of whatever is going on. We listen to the clients and, you know, really observe and take from them what the need is. And so we were doing MAT and then opioid epidemic hit and we were like, wow, we need to expand this. It needs its own space. So that's kind of how our outpatient sites evolved. It's just we couldn't continue providing the services all at our residential site because, you know, we're already space challenged there. So, we're constant evolution.
Well, so talking about constant evolution, so you and I are in a cohort through the Alabama Association of Nonprofits called NELI or Nelly, or I think they call it NELI.
I think. Okay.
And, you know, one of the things that I think is a common bond of all of us in that room is the transition or evolution that you have to go through when you come in doing direct service, because a lot of us in that room came in doing the work. And then when you get into the administrative side, you're supervising the work, you're fundraising the work, but we're pushing paper, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
And like, it's really hard sometimes to stay connected to the work and to motivate others to stay connected, especially when it's so hard. Because the work
hard work.
the work that we do is hard. The
Yeah.
work that our teams are doing is, sometimes it's impossible.
It is.
So how was that transition for you when you went from kind of doing boots on the ground, being with the clients or your residents every day, to then now you're like passing by being like, oh, I hope everything's going okay. I'm on my way to another meeting.
It's really tough because you kind of have, what is it, like FOMO? You kind of feel like you're missing out on the day-to-day, and it's, you don't feel as impactful, but I know I am, and I know I'm doing the things that need to happen to keep everything running and keeping us funded, but you do miss out. You do sort of miss, the stories, and, you're just you don't feel as connected with the clientele, but, of course I still hear about all the successes through staff and, but yeah, it was tough. It took me a minute to fully remove myself from direct client care. And now if a client catches me in the hallway, staff's like, oh no, she's like, what is she going to do? And I'm like, yeah, don't let clients get to me because they're going to get whatever they want.
I know.
Whatever they want. Do you need a special request pass? You got it. So yeah, staff does not want me in client affairs at this point.
I realized that here in Alabama, I am doing some school-based prevention just because of capacity needs. Yeah. But before I was like really trying to step out, and my school-based prevention team was like, we got it covered. And I'm like, but can't I just go to this school? This was like my favorite school. And they're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Because they knew, like, I probably wasn't going to stick to the script. I probably wasn't going to turn my paperwork in. I probably was going to, as you said, they were going to get whatever they wanted.
Yep. And, I will see clients that I had as a case manager. Some of my first clients, because we know substance use is chronic relapsing disease. And, we'll see people a few times, repeat folks. But, especially those that I worked directly with and, trusted me early in my career with helping them. Yep. And, those folks.
And they don't view you as executive director. They view you as Elizabeth, the person that helped them.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. That they have a relationship with.
Yes. So I sometimes overstep and get involved in places I don't need to get involved with. But I always say, I am not going to override any clinical decision, but
I know, it's so hard.
Yeah, every now and then.
How was it also transitioning as somebody who had been there, for a long time before you stepped into the executive director role? Was it also hard, like it was for me, to have to then be like big boss over like peers and people that you had grown up with? Like, that was really painful for me. Was that hard for you?
Yes and no. I think it was more maybe uncomfortable for me than anyone else.
Totally.
Totally. No one else thinks anything about it. And the previous ED just did the transition so well. This wasn't an overnight thing. This was something that, honestly, we had planned for probably 3 years. And, and she made that public knowledge. So it wasn't an overnight shift of, authority or power or anything like that. It was, okay, we know who's coming in, we know who's next. And she slowly, started putting some of those responsibilities on me. So it didn't make it uncomfortable for anyone else, probably besides me.
Besides you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But she did it so well. And I wouldn't have done it any other way. That is how it should be done, is a slow transition instead of just an event that happens. Correct. And now everyone is uncomfortable and trying to figure out, the new normal and what the workplace looks like. And, it happened so smoothly because I was already, in the culture, love our culture. And, people knew to expect the continuation of it and not, of course there's going to be changes and I do things a little bit differently and personality. No, we are not the same person. And so, I think that is still more of my own struggle than anyone else's you want to live up to, you want to live up to the expectation and in the past, but you got to do things your own way. So
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm going to ask this, and I don't want you to be like, oh, but like, what is next for Fellowship House? I mean, by the way, if nothing else happens, it's pretty damn awesome. But like, what is your, my staff, APC staff are always saying, what is your vision?
What is my vision?
And I'm like, well, I had a vision before all of the funding uncertainty.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to make sure that things are just keeping on.
Yes.
It's hard. It's not impossible, but it can be difficult to have a vision and grow the vision while you're also trying to maintain.
Yeah.
Both things can happen at once. It's just a little bit more challenging. So you've obviously expanded quite a bit, but do you have anything up your sleeve or things that you would like to see as part of your?
Yeah, we've really tried to plan for expanding capacity. Sort of like we talked about earlier, there just is not enough residential capacity. And so, and I have a great team that is able to maintain what we are already doing and what services we're providing. I don't lose any sleep over services being provided. I trust them wholly. And, that allows me the benefit of being able to look towards the future and try and figure out, where are we going next? And so this past year, excuse me, we actually had purchased the building next door to us and did some renovations, and we're actually going to move our women to that new site.
Amazing.
Amazing. And it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. I mean, and if you've been to our current building, we're an old building. We're 100-year-old facility over on South Side. We have a ton of character, ton of add-ons, and we're kind of just piecemealed together. But so that's sort of where my vision is how can we grow our residential footprint. We've expanded our outpatient capacity. I feel like we've done so well with that. We've gotten really creative with our special programs, with the She Recovers program in Walker County, working with pregnant and parenting women. And we've gotten creative with, being the first in the state to have an outpatient location in the Walker County Jail. So we're actually treating folks in jail before they are released. And I mean, that's recidivism amazing. Has decreased astronomically in the jail. I mean, I think we officially had our first person start the program in June. So we haven't even been a full year, and recidivism is, it's crazy the impact that's made.
Awesome.
So, I mean, we've gotten so creative. And
we're doing Recovery Dharma and Smart Recovery.
Yes, and added some very creative groups. And so, all of those things have kind of stabilized and are just functioning really well. So now it's time for us to sort of focus on next steps. And we hope to have our women in the new space. Like I said, it's beautiful. It's so therapeutic. We're really trying to focus on.
We're just waiting on all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, all the official, stamps of approval.
Because one thing that I don't think people fully understand is that there are a lot of rules and regulations and credentials in order to be a certified treatment provider because several years ago, not just in Alabama, but across the country, there really were not those standards. And so people were getting subpar care, or worse, were paying for a location, getting there and realizing that the place didn't even exist.
Right. Exactly.
Which is so gross. Like, you're taking advantage of somebody at their, at a time of need. And it's just, families have lost thousands of dollars on something that isn't legitimate or doesn't even exist. So there's a lot of hoops that you all have to jump through as treatment providers.
Yes, and there's standards too for even just the renovation, with life and safety, rooms have to be a certain size. There has to be so many bathrooms per residence. And there really is a lot of care that goes into residential spaces and making sure it is somewhere you want to send your family. It's not somewhere that's just kind of thrown up or falling in on itself. And so that's sort of my vision, is to, make us somewhere you want to send your family, get us updated. We've always put most of our funding in direct client care, direct client services. And that's where, again, most of our funding will go. But now we're sort of in a space where I'm looking at, starting a capital campaign to do the rest of the expansion that's needed, because even for staff, we want to be able to provide comforting spaces. We want to be able to provide comforting offices for clients to want to go into and have their individual sessions and one-on-one and counseling. And that is sort of
60th anniversary year. It sounds like you've got a banner year ahead of you.
That's the hope. We have a big year. We're trying to figure out sort of a starting point for that, but you
have a junior board and you have a board. Like if people are listening and they're like, I had a family member that went to Fellowship House and their life was turned around, or I want to make a difference because Fellowship House means something to our community. How do they get involved?
Yeah, I mean, email me.
Okay.
My email. I'm usually myself or Mariah Wick.
Yes, I've met her. Yes.
She does a lot of our community, just engagement and development. And so contacting one of us, our website is always a good place to start as well.
That's fellowshiphouse.org?
It's FSHBHM.org.
FSH.
A lot of letters.
.org.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes, and so on there we have a spot for our 60th and things that you can do to help go towards that campaign, and all of the 60th anniversary campaign will go towards capital expansion, because capital funds are difficult to find.
It's hard to find the money that is not tied to a new program.
It is, and getting people to understand we don't need a new program. What we do,
working.
We do it so well.
It's working.
We do it so well. We have so many success stories. We have the numbers to show what we do works, but we need to expand and increase the capacity of what we do,
so that
what we already do well.
Doing what you're doing. You don't want to have to create something new.
Exactly.
You just want to sustain.
We need to take this show on the road to funders.
Hopefully they're listening. We just need to sustain the work.
Exactly. That is what we need to do. We need to be able to serve more people with what we're already providing.
Yeah. Because you all are kind of a hallmark in the community. Like when I first moved here, Ashley on the team and Carrie, they were like, you've got to sit down with Elizabeth. Not only because Elizabeth is just good people, but also because Fellowship House is pretty outstanding and they're unique in the services that they're providing for the people that they're providing them to.
We are. We really take pride too on just being the most affordable treatment program in the state. I mean, we have for residential an intake fee of $35, and if you can't pay that, you're still getting treatment services. We make sure
Can you
that's
say that one more time, because I think that is something that needs to be said again.
$35 intake fee. So coming in the front door.
Can you believe that, Ronnie? $35?
That's the fee, and if you can't pay that, you're still being admitted, and we'll work with you on trying to figure out ways to pay that. And if you can't pay it, we're still going to provide treatment services. Because, money just shouldn't be a barrier to getting the help that you need.
And we just had the walk. And, one of the things that people always want to know is well, where does my money go?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it goes to support APC, but it also goes to support the work that we do. And some of the work we do is provide scholarships for people to get into your facility.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. And I think you all provided, well over 100 scholarships last year for folks. So,
which and is because people came out to walk, and because people came out to honor their loved ones or to celebrate their own recovery. Mm-hmm. So that is just paying it forward.
Yes, and that's why we're, I love our community, because we always are so collaborative, and people don't understand how intertwined we all truly are. So whenever it comes to the walk, we are always going to promote the walk, because we also reap rewards. Our clients benefit from that.
Yes.
So,
and when people call us to say, my son or daughter is struggling, or I am tired of living this life, I need to know where to go, and we ask a couple of questions, and if one of the questions is they don't really have insurance, or they need something local, hyper local,
right,
you're the place that we refer to.
Yeah,
so.
And we appreciate that.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Hey, thanks, friend, for being here.
Hey, thanks. This was fun.
Is there anything else that that you wanted me to ask? This is your time.
No, I just, realizing that not everyone knows we are out there and we exist, and just making sure people know how to find us.
Yes.
And even if that means just showing up on our doorstep downtown, like you said, we're right next to Ramsey High School. We we don't turn anyone away, even if that means we have to help you get into the shelter for a night and then we'll figure out next steps in the morning. We don't turn people away. Anyone that needs help, we're going to get them the help. So just wanting people to know that, you know, yes, there's formal ways that you can do referral, but also just show up. If you're in desperate need, if you need help, we're
and
there.
That's the vision.
Yes, and that is the vision, to continue to serve and be available and be accessible and just let people know we're here. We're here.
If you like what you heard, and I know you did, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing to The Shield. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thanks. This was fun.